Big changes are happening with the Las Vegas Raiders. The latest news is that general manager Tom Tesco has been fired. This move came shortly after the team decided to part ways with head coach Antonio Pierce. Both Tesco and Pierce only lasted one season, and it's clear the Raiders are serious about making changes. After a disappointing 4-13 season, the team is hitting the reset button. It seems that firing Tesco is part of a bigger plan to change the direction of the team. Now, the Raiders are on the hunt for a new general manager and head coach. They're looking for a strong leadership duo to lead them into the 2025 season. Several candidates have already been scheduled for interviews, and so far, these are the names on the list. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions; Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator of the Lions; Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens; Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs; and Robert Saleh, the former head coach of the New York Jets. The Raiders are exploring different options with a mix of offensive and defensive experts, as well as a former head coach. Personally, I was a bit surprised by the news of Tom Tesco's firing. Everything seemed to suggest he'd get another season, and I honestly believe he deserved it. After all, a general manager, like a head coach, often needs more than one season to truly show what they can do. Even in Tom Tesco's first season, I thought he made some solid moves that set him up to be a strong GM for the future. However, by letting him go so quickly, despite his impressive draft picks, it's clear the Raiders are planning something big. They're aiming high this offseason, and they're not just looking for any coach or GM, they're going after a top-tier candidate. Tom Brady, who's now involved in the Raiders' front office, is likely to make some bold moves. This could mean the team is preparing to be as aggressive as possible in their efforts, especially when it comes to landing someone like Ben Johnson. As I mentioned earlier, the Raiders have a virtual meeting scheduled with Johnson tomorrow, and the timing is very interesting. The Raiders fired Tesco just a day before this meeting, and that speaks volumes. Reports have surfaced that Ben Johnson not only wants a hefty salary, around $15 million per season, but he also wants to have some say in who the general manager will be. By letting go of Tesco, the Raiders have made room for Johnson to potentially come in and have more influence. At this point, it's all about convincing Johnson to join the team. According to Albert Breer, Johnson has made it clear that he won't waste his time with interviews unless he's seriously considering taking the job. For that to happen, there needs to be a solid alignment between the head coach and the GM, and the Raiders need to prove they're ready for that. Ben Johnson has made it clear that he won't just take any interview. He's being very selective about where he'll sit down, which makes his acceptance of the Raiders' interview all the more significant. It shows he's definitely interested, but now it's up to the Raiders to win him over. Johnson has said that he needs a clear assessment from the team about what went wrong and how they plan to fix it. This is where Tom Brady could really make a difference. Brady can step in, offer his insights, and pitch the vision for the future of the team. It will be important to show Johnson how the Raiders plan to turn things around and how he fits into that plan. By moving on from Tom Tesco, the Raiders have opened the door for Johnson to have a bigger role in shaping the future of the team, including having a say in who the new general manager will be. Of course, that's still a big if, but it's clear that this move has made the possibility of organizational alignment more likely. One thing to keep an eye on, though, is ensuring that Ben Johnson doesn't end up running both the head coach and GM positions like we saw with John Gruden. I don't think that will happen, especially with Tom Brady in the mix. I believe Brady will have the final say and help maintain a clear organizational structure. But the timing is definitely interesting. Firing Tom Tesco the day before the interview shows that the Raiders are serious about making a change. I'll be honest. I think Tom Tesco did a solid job in his first season, especially considering the circumstances. The draft has been a trouble spot for the Raiders for years, especially when it comes to the first round. But credit where credit is due, Tom Tesco knocked it out of the park with his picks. He drafted a generational tight end, Brock Bowers, in the first round, a promising and dominant center, Jackson P. Johnson, in the second, and a right tackle, DJ Glaze, who started the whole season. That's a pretty impressive haul. In any draft, landing a generational talent and two starters is a huge win. If the Raiders could replicate that kind of success every year, they'd be in a fantastic position. So, it's a little surprising that Tom Tesco only got one season. It feels like the team didn't give him enough time to show the full impact of his work. It's a tough break for Tesco, but it's clear that Tom Brady and the Raiders aren't playing around. They're making bold moves, and hopefully this gamble will pay off for them. This also signals that the Raiders are trying to shift in a new direction. If they can convince Ben Johnson to join, it could be the start of something exciting. But there's also one wild thought I wanted to mention. What if the Raiders are still in the running for Deion Sanders? I know it sounds far-fetched, but it's worth considering. While I still think it's a long shot for Deion to make the jump to the NFL, he hasn't completely ruled it out. In a recent appearance on Good Morning America, Sanders spoke about what it would take for him to consider an NFL coaching job, and he dropped one major stipulation that could change things. Deion Sanders recently mentioned that the only way he'd consider coaching in the NFL is if he could coach his sons. And yes, he said sons, plural, which is interesting because the Raiders have been linked to Shedeur Sanders for the past few weeks. With the Raiders now sitting at the number 6 overall pick, it's clear they're in a good position to potentially land Shedeur, but at the same time, it seems like his draft stock is cooling off, especially after his struggles in the Alamo Bowl. Deion has also made it clear that he plans to be deeply involved in the decision-making process regarding Shedeur's future, including the draft. There's even the possibility that Deion could try to steer Shedeur away from certain teams. If a team drafts him but doesn't meet Deion's conditions, he could essentially force their hand by making it clear that Shedeur won't join them. While it's still a long shot, I can't rule out the possibility of Deion Sanders joining the NFL. As a Raiders fan, you quickly learn that anything can happen with this unpredictable organization. So, while it sounds crazy, I'm not entirely dismissing it. That said, Tom Brady seems to be taking the lead on front office decisions, and he has a close relationship with both Deion and Shedeur Sanders. So, it's possible that Brady could play a role in making this happen, but for now, I think Ben Johnson remains the Raiders' top target. He's a more realistic option at this point, especially since Deion is still under contract with Colorado. Going after Johnson makes more sense for the Raiders right now. We'll just have to wait and see what happens, but I think Ben Johnson is the Raiders' main target for now. We'll find out how the interview goes tomorrow, and hopefully, the team can make a strong impression. That said, I do want to mention a few other candidates. One name I'm really excited about is Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. In my opinion, he's a fantastic candidate. He checks all the boxes. He's offensive-minded, a proven play caller, and has tons of experience. Monken runs a modern NFL offense that's been highly successful. He's had a solid track record in the NFL and college football, where he was a 2-time national champion as the offensive coordinator for the Georgia Bulldogs. His work with the Ravens has been impressive, too. Over the past 2 seasons, he's helped turn the Ravens into one of the best offenses in the league. It's no coincidence that Lamar Jackson has been playing some of his best football under Monken, and there's even a chance Lamar could win MVP this season. If that happens, it would be back-to-back years with Monken's system leading Lamar to the MVP award. So I think Todd Monken would be a great choice, and I wouldn't be disappointed at all if he became the next head coach. One name that surprised me, though, is Robert Saleh. While I think he's brilliant on the defensive side of the ball, I'm not sure he's the right fit as a head coach. We've seen with the New York Jets that he hasn't quite proven himself in that role yet. I'd love him as a defensive coordinator, but I'm not convinced he's head coach material right now. Here's the revised version of the 7th section. I'll be honest, I wouldn't be too excited about Robert Saleh as head coach, but that's just my take. Raider Nation, this has been some crazy news today. It really feels like the Raiders are gearing up for something big. This offseason is going to be full of action, and there's a lot to look forward to. Not only are we searching for a new head coach, but we're also in the market for a new general manager. Once those 2 positions are filled, it'll play a huge role in shaping the direction of this roster moving forward. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. With the firing of Tom Tesco, what does that signal to you? Do you think we're all in on Ben Johnson? Is there still a chance Deion Sanders could join the Raiders? Or in general, who do you think should be the Raiders' top target for both the head coach and GM roles? Let me know your opinions down below. As always, thanks for tuning in, Raider Nation. If you're new to the channel and love Raiders-related content like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. With that said, I'll see you all in the next one.